In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how with a couple sheets of plywood and a few other things, we turned our old, outdated closet into this. Now I feel like it's important to first show you guys kind of where this room was, and my goodness, yikes. This room renovation is an entire project in and of itself, but I figured I'd highlight the closet while we're here, but couldn't do that without showing you guys kind of where it was at first. So after we had paint up on the walls and everything was patched, flooring was down, I was off to the actual build. Now almost all of the cutting done here was with my circular saw. I don't have the luxury of a table saw yet, and so I was utilizing a cutlass that I'd built, and I had Home Depot rip down some sheets of plywood in half so that I could kind of more easily move them around. A huge part of this project is simply measuring and cutting straight lines, so I wanted to make sure I took my time on doing that. As you can see here, I was using a straight edge. That was pretty much what I used most of the time. I later actually built out kind of a rip jig for my circular saw, which helped with getting these even more square, and let me tell you, it gets fun. Now this project was not without flaw, so the circular saw kind of bound a bit here. What ended up happening is it slid under the track. So adding some weight to the center of that track ended up eliminating that problem moving forward, but if you had a clamp, you could definitely clamp it down there in the center. Then it was off to the cleats, including the French cleats, which you can see I'm cutting here at a 45 with the circular saw. Now, one thing that I highly recommend is building out a story stick. This will give you a reference for where the shelves are going to be and how the build's going to look on the wall before building it. I have got to edge band every single one of these shelves, as well as the other sides of the cabinet. And I'm hiding inside because it's way too hot to be outside. So let's do some work. Let's get it done. Now, I was not adequately prepared and didn't get an edge band trimmer. None of the stores, none of the Home Depots or Lowe's around me have any, so I'm gonna have to do something a little differently. But this board is the exact same thickness as all of the shelves that we've cut and everything that we're gonna be trimming out. And so what I'm gonna do is basically build my own edge trimmer out of these razor blades and this piece of board. I'm not saying this is the safest way, but this is just what we're gonna use. I am actually surprised with how well this worked. It actually trimmed off the edges really well after a couple passes, and if you've never done edge banding before, super simple. Take your plywood, take the edge banding, put it on the end, iron it down. The glue helps it adhere, and then you just need to trim it up so that it is ready for either stain, paint, or however you're planning to finish your wood. Okay, so is it perfect? No, but is it pretty good? I'd say so. I mean, with a little bit of a sand here, I think we'll have some pretty clean edges. For the ends, just gonna take some straight snips here and go for it. Make sure it's flat up against the plywood. A little bit of a break there. If I had a pair of these that were a little longer, that'd be ideal. But again, working with what we got. Once you get the process down, it is very straightforward. So you're just going to rinse and repeat on the shelves and on any part that's going to be facing out. If you've never done edge banding before, it is a super approachable task. Anybody can do it. Great way to finish the edges of your plywood. Now after the edge banding, I took some sandpaper to the corners and really any rough spots to knock off any high areas that I found, and then hit the entire thing with some Kills all-purpose primer. Super important to prime any sort of raw wood before painting. I ended up switching gears to a different project for the weekend, and Rachel came in clutch by finishing out the painting for me so I could assemble the cabinet. Pocket holes made the assembly for this very simple, and I used 3 holes across both sides of the shelves to assemble the cabinet. Again, every project has its hiccups. What happened to me here is the collar on the drill bit actually shifted, so make sure that set screw is nice and tight. remember that story stick we built earlier? That comes in very handy when you want to mark out where the shelves are on the actual cabinet. Now I used a spacer block to space all of these evenly and then just got to screwing. For the French cleats, I drilled holes in the side to pilot the screws and then screwed it in with 3-inch screws down the length for added strength. I wanted the entire assembly to float off the floor, so that's why we went with French cleats. After the cabinet is built, I found where the studs were located on the wall and hung the cleats onto the wall, and then was able to hang the cabinet. Putting in the shelves here, and then installing the actual cleats that hold up the shelf. I ended up following up with some wood filler to cover up the screw holes and then doing some touch-up paint on the final product. I turned some leftover baseboards into mount for the closet bars on both sides. Just trying to figure out how long the closet bar is. Take this, put it in there, stretch out your tape, and take this and hook it on the other side and find out how much you need. Ensure everything is level, mount your additional shelves, and you are good to go. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for the film. I hope you enjoyed this closet build. If you did, leave us a like, hit the subscribe button so you guys can stay up on the new content that I'm going to be putting out here. I'm going to be following a lot of the different processes of this house build and would love for you guys to tag along. Thank you guys again, and keep it on the DL.